It is week 2 and we are working on letter B. This one is a much more traditional style. It is a bracketed slab serif. We've got a moderate contrast between the thick and thin strokes. Whereas last week I forgot to mention we had a really high contrast, sometimes called heavy contrast. That means one stroke is really thin and one is really thick. Sometimes we have no contrast, like with a block letter. This week we have kind of a moderate mix of thicks and thins. And one thing I like to do with the letter B is turn on the grid. So if you come to the wrench tool in Canvas, you can click Drawing Guide, and that gives us a nice graph paper. You can edit that, you can make it bigger or smaller. That's a pretty good size it started out at. You can adjust the thickness and you can change the color. If you want more blue lines, increase or decrease the opacity. So I'm gonna leave that there, click done, and that'll just help us get some nice straight lines. I'm gonna use the same monoline brush as last week in that dark kind of mustard yellow color. So we'll talk about what makes a letter B hard as we go through it and what some standard proper characteristics are. Can you hear my dog out there shaking around? I shut them out of my office and they're not happy about it. Let's start by going, I'm gonna go about 4 down. Actually, I'm gonna go 5 down. I'm just gonna draw a straight line. And now I'm gonna draw a second straight line to match that. So that's gonna be our width. And then with the letter B right here, what we call the waistline, it is not at dead center. It is a little above center, which optically helps it look better. So what I usually do with the letter B is I start with a straight line at the top. I'm gonna go up a little higher and a straight line at the bottom. And the center of our letter would be here. So we wanna go a little bit higher. So I'm just gonna go a wee bit higher and kind of mark out where I want the top of my B to end. Now I'm going to create an arc shape. And you can let it be imperfect. We can go back and fix that later in the process. And for our second, for this particular B style, the bottom of the B comes out farther than the top half. So I'm just gonna draw another arc that comes out a little farther. All right, and we want to try to somewhat match this thickness on this side. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball that, and same thing at the bottom. There, I'm gonna redraw it. A little more like that. Now we can drag and drop our color. I can even click continue filling up here and just tap in my color. I can color it, whoop. Get out of that color fill, and then I can manually color it in. And now is where we will kind of touch up those guidelines we drew in. So I will just switch to an eraser tool and come in and kind of clean things up. And then sometimes I'll clean and add and clean and add until it looks visually how I want it to look. So sometimes we do things really mathematically in lettering, and sometimes we kind of do what looks best optically. And when all else fails, I really rely on what I think looks best optically. So I'll just kind of clean and adjust until I feel like, whoops, it looks how I want it to look. Smooth lines out, erase things. I want that curve to be more slight, but starting with that straight line helps you draw it the way that it should be. A lot of times when people draw a B, a beginner mistake, one that I made myself, is to come into that arc too fast, when really it should come straight and then around. Can you see that difference? So that's what we're trying to do here. And then sometimes I'll smooth those arcs out a little as well, so I get more of that straight look on the inside and outside. And this is one of those letters especially for this project where I just kind of eyeball what I think looks best. I'd probably, if you weren't sitting here watching me, I would keep messing with it until I'm happy with it. But I don't want to bore you, and I did promise these videos would be quick and easy, but you can take as much time as you need to really get it how you want it. And then these serifs are a little long, so I'm gonna just erase a little bit out on both sides. And then this one is bracketed. So what I usually do for that is just come in, I'm gonna make my brush a little smaller and then arc it out. Same thing at the bottom, just kind of arc it out. And again, if you need to erase it to make them match a little better, you can do that. And I feel like this curve isn't quite like I want it, so I'll erase a little more out. I could probably do a few more touch-ups, but that's not bad. So we'll consider this letter done for today. I will go ahead, tap my layer just like last week, click copy, tap gallery, come back to my main thing, make sure I'm on the add your letters here part, and then click add paste. That one came out a little too small, but that's okay. We can size it up a little bit. Usually I avoid sizing up because it sometimes pixelates it, but if you're not going too much, it's usually fine. So I'll slide that guy into place. And if the edges get a little blurry, you can always duplicate a few times and then pinch those layers together. That's kind of my little hack for that. And then if I come in and I notice anything doesn't look like I want it to, I notice a straight mark here, I'll go ahead and clean it up on this page as well. Or if you want, you could just be drawing the letters on this page. It's just, there's a lot going on here. So I feel like if we do it on a separate canvas, we can use the grid, we can, have a little more freedom and not be distracted by the other elements to bring it over. But next week, maybe we'll draw it a little bigger like we did with the A, so that doesn't happen. But sometimes it's a happy accident because then I can explain these to you. So I'm not gonna re-record this. I'm gonna go with my mistake so you can learn from it. And I will see you. Letter C is a really fun one. It has a really cool kind of decorative Gothic inspired serif and some elements. So I'm excited to do that one with you next week.